Hey guys, Video Psych here. Yeah, I swear to God. Well, just on a side note, I am apparently going to be stuck on night shift for a little while now. My boss told me after the two rotations of being on nights now that they are having me stay on night shift for the rest of the month. So you are going to be seeing me at awkward times now, just so you know. But with that being said, I will just try to get right into it and just kind of move on from there. So, yeah, been having a hard time making videos for you guys lately. It's just been kind of one thing after another. And today's topic that I'm going to talk about is how I got over toxic masculinity over the years. That's if, of course, you are interested at all in it. This isn't a love ball video today. Sorry, guys. No, but seriously. When I was younger, and this is kind of the things that I talk about sometimes that, how I've talked about, things I've been lied about over the years as I grew up. And this is just, I would say, possibly the biggest thing that I kind of had to hurdle over and get over, besides maybe a few other things, of course, is just that masculinity, that toxic kind of masculinity when I was younger. And the thing is, what is it to be a man, of course? Well, to be a man is simply to just be a grown-up male, is actually what the description is as a man. A man is a grown-up male that is a cisgender male that identifies as a male, if you want to get technical with me on this. So I am, by technical definition, a man, simply because I am a grown up and I am a male, and that's it. That's actually all that there really is to being a man, actually. However, there are even many grown men to this day that still think that you have to be overly toxic to be a man, that you have to be a jackass to be a man, that we have to be the king of the house, over the mother and all that. But to be frank with you, that's just a bunch of bullshit. Now, the thing about being dominant and being submissive, now, dominating somebody doesn't actually mean, let's say forcing them to do something or forcing them into something. Let's say having somebody submit to you for sex. But the thing about being submissive is that in reality, that person is giving you the best part of themselves or giving you a very good part of themselves to you, is what being submissive actually is. You aren't taking it from them as a dom. The dom is supposed to provide for them, and then also they're also supposed to provide comfort and pleasure, is what a dom is supposed to do. Now the sub is the one that actually makes the rules, not the dom. And that is actually how it works. The dom is only the support of the sub, is basically what I am saying, not the person that's bullying and pushing the sub around. Now, especially if you are, let's say, pushing a sub into sex or making them afraid for you or of you, I should say, technically speaking. Got my throat. I swear. If you are forcing somebody into sex, that is not being dominating. That is just rape. Simply put, that is what that is. If you force somebody into sex, that is just rape, and that is it. You are not doming them. That is just rape. Okay. So let's not get those two mixed in between each other. Okay. But with those kind of being said, you know, as I've just learned things like that over time, just even simple things like that, I come to realize that the guys that I used to grow up with were just completely full of shit and were very toxic, and that I needed to stop listening to them. I remember this one time, not terribly long ago, I had a chat with a guy who talked about how men were becoming weaker, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that we weren't men anymore, right? And that's we have become, dominated by our wives, so to speak. And I told him that if a wife or partner, somebody who is married to you, is actually being abusive towards you in a relationship, you actually have the right to leave. They cannot claim you if you seriously want to leave and break up with them is the thing. So why is this whole thing about becoming the king of the castle is the thing? Well, the thing is, I learned over time that people like this with toxic masculinity are very insecure. And sometimes they also aren't very bright, is the thing. The thing is, people like this are actually weak on the inside, not strong. They are weak. Because why in the world would somebody be afraid of something like this when all that they can seriously do in a situation like that is just break up with their wife if they're seriously being abusive like that? Because the way he's talking about it, it sounded very abusive. Your partner and the person that you're working with in your marriage relationship is supposed to provide comfort and support of some magnitude. But doing something like this is only going to hurt the relationship, if anything. It's going to hurt them, also going to hurt the morality. It's also going to hurt the kids if you have kids, etc. It's going to hurt a lot of things. So why in the world would you do something like this in the first place? And it's because the reality is that they are afraid and they don't want to admit it. They are afraid of something that could happen, but guess what? It never does. It never, ever, ever fucking happens. Ever. And I just think it is so fucking hilarious. And even when something like this does happen, there's easily another solution to get around it, other than just being toxic as fuck. Like I just said, if this lady that he's with is trying to be overly controlling and all that, then why don't you just fucking leave? I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. What kind of idiot do you really have to be? And I don't know. But, I also used to be afraid of things like rejection and, just simple little things, I'm not afraid of rejection anymore. And, I don't have that toxic masculinity, for that. I don't have a toxic masculinity of, oh, if I get rejected, that means I'm just not man enough or something. No, it's just simply because they aren't mutually attracted to you. And who knows, maybe you said something stupid. I mean, we all do it sometimes, Sometimes we give off a bad impression. It happens, we live and learn. But that's the thing with people that are toxic, is that they're too afraid to go through that curve, is the thing. They're too afraid to go through that learning curve and have the experience. And as far as being cast out goes, actually, at first, when I was cast out, when I was just a young teenager, due to, reasons, you know, is because the school didn't want to take responsibility for not being able to teach somebody like myself that learns differently. And so they tried to mark me as handicapped. And I didn't learn that until maybe a year or so after I was homeschooled. Of course, when I did learn that, I started talking to people about it. I remember back when I used to sneak out of my parents' house to get a party, and just meet people because it had been a long time since I'd done that. And I was kind of at desperate times. I remember, here, I'll take a drink. I remember at the time, I'm going to be frank with you. I mean, there are things that were bad, of course, at the time, but it's not like it was all bad. It's not like it was the end of the world because I was cast out. I mean, there were still plenty of people that I could have potentially talked to at the time. It's just that when I was first homeschooled, we didn't really meet people very much. And my father was always working. He was always trying to become successful in the field that he was in. And mom was always busy with us. She was trying to teach us and be homeschooled for us. And so when I did start sneaking out, of course, the guys that I was hanging out for just a bit, and we were just hanging out. We were at the place called Venus News down there, not too far from where I lived. And it was a porno store. And one of the guys' brothers, who was, obviously old enough to be at the store, he actually worked there. And he was throwing out some old magazines. And so his brother obviously called him up. And he said, hey, we seriously don't have anywhere to recycle this shit. Our recycle bin is like completely full of the older magazines. So do you guys want this whole box of magazines? And so we came over. Of course, I was underaged at the time. I was like, I don't know what, 15 years old at the time. And, we got handed these magazines, our hands on these magazines. And I actually still have one of them to this day in my room, in a hiding spot, actually. But enough about that. So we're going through these magazines, right? And, we're just chatting. This is probably the most fun I had when it came to sneaking out of my parents' house. Because I didn't have to worry about some drunk idiot, beating me up at some party or something. Or whatever stupid shit happens at parties, We were just chatting. And of course, at one point, I bring up the fact that I had been cast out. And well, at least one of the other guys said, well, yeah, I'm actually not very surprised by that. Actually, most of us have. And I was actually so surprised by that at the time. I was just like, what the fuck? Most of you guys have been like just cast out. And he said, yeah. He said, you see Mike over here, he has bipolar. And, you see him, he has this. And I said, okay, so what were you cast out for? And he just said, just for being an idiot. Because he would just get in so much fucking trouble. And so he got cast out. And then when he said that, I was just kind of like, okay, I'm not very surprised by that. And I told him the reason why I was cast out. And then he said this. He said, the reason why they cast you out is because people like that actually aren't very honest. He said, they did it because they didn't really care about you, is the thing. They might always talk about honesty and strength at places like this, but the truth is they're pathetic. They're weak. And every time they come up with something that, they have to take care of or have to do, they tend to dismiss it and then act like they're honest and hardworking. And, that kind of made me think for the longest time, for at least a couple years after he said that. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, eventually I did stop talking to that guy because I actually had learned that he was actually going into people's houses and robbing people's stuff. So yeah, I stopped talking to that guy. But otherwise, at the time, he didn't really seem like all that bad of a person. But it's just like I said, sometimes you just don't know who you're gonna meet sometimes. What can I say? But that really was only the beginning. You know, when things like that happen to you, you think, "Oh, this is how much worse can it get?" Or, "Shit, this is the end." You know, when you're like that and you're young like that. But, now that I'm 32 years old, nowadays I've learned that it was really only the beginning of my problems. You know, it's just one problem after another. But, that's part of what growing is, learning, to manage yourself, learning to manage a job, learning to manage through stress, learning to, get through the shitty ass situation that you're in, etc. That is all just a part of life. It's not very fun, but it's just life. And the more that you learn this, the easier it's going to be for you in the near future. Take it from me. Because again, it's just going to be, even worse from there for all you fucking know. But yeah. And knock on wood, nowadays, I mean, right now, I'm actually doing just fine. It's not like it was in the past where legitimately things were actually weren't really, they were pretty sour in the past. But, nowadays I'm actually doing just fine. But that's in part because of the fact that I'm not very insecure anymore. And I can just look at things and just laugh sometimes. It's not just how your life is that makes your life good. It's also how you react to it is the thing. Because if I, let's say, reacted to life like some incel and started crying all the damn time and started thinking it was the end of the world just because I got rejected, well, I mean, yeah, my life would be like shit, now wouldn't it? But, it was a pretty big time period and I had learned a lot. And yeah, hi. I didn't really see that down there. I don't know how long it's been down there, but with that being said, and it's at about 18 minutes now, I'll just end the video. I mean, I could just talk all day, but I don't want you guys sitting here for like an hour listening to me and my stories. I mean, even if you wanted to. So, yeah, I'll just end it here. And I'll see you guys maybe in the next video. I'm not sure when that's going to be, especially with, my time. My brother over here is sleeping. He could wake up at any time. I mean, and do something. I don't know. Sometimes he wakes up in the morning, but, that being said, I'll just end it here. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.